Thank you so much for joining our webinar today, Finding Balance, Ideas, and Resources, excuse me, for working parents during virtual learning. Just a couple of quick housekeeping notes. All of our attendees are on mute, and if you would like to communicate with any of the panelists, please use the chat box function. This webinar is currently being recorded. The recording, along with the blog and social media content, will be shared at a later date to all of the attendees and registrants, along with the opportunity for you to register for future webinars. And finally, throughout the webinar, if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat box or use the Q&A function. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce our session moderator, Lorena Taboas.
Thank you, Howard, and thank you so much to everyone for joining us today. We are so excited to have this conversation with all of you, with parents, parent leaders, our fiercest allies from schools, districts across the country, and so many more coming together around this important topic of supporting parents throughout a very tough year that we've all had. We're coming together and sharing this space in this webinar in partnership with Remake Learning Days across America, a joyful festival of learning taking place virtually and in person in 17 regions around the country between April 22nd and May 23rd, which we'll hear about more later on in the webinar. But first, like I mentioned this week, it really marks an important anniversary for us parents, especially. It's been 1 year since the pandemic caused schools to suddenly close and a lot of parents had to start working from home. So we're kind of using this space and this week to reflect on not just the struggles, but also the victories that we've all had and we've all encountered over the last year. This is meant to be an interactive conversation, so please feel free to use the chat box and chime in with any relevant resources that you may have, any parenting hacks, ideas. If you haven't already, please use the chat box to introduce yourself, write your name, if you're with an organization, and how old your kids are. And if you can please also share a victory, big or small. Like I mentioned, we've had a lot of them over the past year and we want to keep this conversation positive. So feel free to use the chat box to share a victory that you've had, big or small, for your family this past year. And I'll start. First, let me introduce myself again. My name is Lorena. I am a producer at Univision, which means that a year ago, my boss handed me a laptop and I had to start producing an entire newscast from my apartment in LA while my 4-year-old preschooler was draped over me the whole day because his school, suddenly closed. And as hard as that was, staying, positive, it gave me the opportunity to help him in his education in a way that I never would have or never had the opportunity to. And right when he was ready to start kindergarten, he was already reading. And I feel like the moments that we shared together and that we had together was precisely because of those moments that just the abundance of time that we had together and the resources that I was able to grab out of desperacy, out of trying to, continue his education. So I would love for you guys to also share your small or your big victories that you've had this past year. Without further ado, I want to introduce the incredible group of panelists that we have today from incredible organizations that have been providing resources throughout this pandemic. Yuling Chang from Remake Learning Days across America, Rocio Lopez from Common Sense Media, and Megan Stroh from Ed Navigator. Welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us. We are so excited to share this space with you today. So, to start this conversation, I want to start it off with a topic that has been on all of our minds, especially parents, with kids at home. Screen time has been one of those issues that it's been very difficult, to navigate. So, Rocio, I want to start with you just because Common Sense has incredible resources on screen time. What do you think is the right balance? Like, what can you tell parents about what is the right balance between online and offline time?
Oh my gosh, that has been the question of the year for all parents, I think. And it's such a pleasure to be joining this webinar at Common Sense. Our mission is to help all families thrive in this new age, digital age of media and technology. And so this was definitely a year with so many challenges with media and tech, because now we were relying on virtual learning and just everything digital for all different aspects of our lives. So I just want to give props and a pat on the back, parents, whatever your situation was, whether you're an essential worker or whether you were working remotely or whether maybe there were layoffs that you were having to deal with. we all did it. We were all in this together in different ways. And the balance between offline and online, I think that was just a whole new ballgame that we were all experiencing. So at Common Sense, our focus has been to encourage parents to, instead of thinking about screen time and the amount of time that our children are in front of screens, because it was inevitable, right? Instead of focusing on screen time, let's change our perspective and think about screen quality. And it's going to be inevitable that we're going to be in front of screens because our children are now doing online learning, attending online classes, needing to be, Zooming with their friends, FaceTiming with their relatives, their grandparents that they haven't seen long distance. So instead of focusing on the time, let's focus on how do we make the most out of the time that we do have with screens. And that includes checking the quality of the content that our children are being exposed to. So I want to introduce you all and give you a quick tour of commonsensemedia.org. It's a free site where you can actually check the ratings and reviews of any title that you can think of that is content for children, including books, movies, TVs, apps, games, and lots of other parenting advice that we have on the site. If you go on our top search engine on commonsensemedia.org and you search any title, for example, Raya and the Last Dragon, which is a children's film that just came out, and you click on it, we not only give you an age-based recommendation, but if you scroll down, we also tell you what you can expect in terms of other types of content in the film, such as language, violence, consumerism, even drugs, and also positive things like positive role models, positive messages, educational value. So all of those things that could really help parents make informed decisions on what content our children are watching, feel free to use us as a resource. And we can change that mindset now. Don't worry about the time, worry about the quality.
I think that is an amazing resource, especially for us parents who have little ones at home who are trying to find, things to keep them entertained during the day. And we want to make sure that what they're watching is quality content. So Megan, bringing you into the conversation, what do you think is a good way to effectively balance that online offline time?
I absolutely love the idea of reframing it around quality time. And we've talked with a lot of families about screen time over the past year. We know it's a difficult challenge across the board. And so I'll share a couple of tips from one of our Boston navigators named Jessica. She's also a mom of 2 little ones. And she recently published an article on our project called The Kinda Guide about screen time. So first tip, instead of thinking about screen time as one giant stressful blob of time, break it into 3 buckets: school time, social time, and entertainment time. Evaluating the purpose of your child's screen time can help you identify some of the pain points, as well as identify some strategies for achieving the balance that you want. You might also start getting curious about trends in your child's screen time. Maybe there's certain days of the week where they're on a screen more than they're not. And that might help you figure out ways, again, to achieve that balance that you're looking for. Another thing we're hearing is that families want their kids to spend a little bit less time on screens in the entertainment zone. So one easy way to reduce the number of minutes or hours your child is spending in that entertainment zone is to give out tickets. So you could give your child a ticket for a set amount of entertainment time. And once you have that system going, it could help eliminate maybe some of the stress with making those decisions around entertainment screen time each day. And it can just maybe free up your brain space just a little bit, so that you know kind of what your child is doing in that entertainment bucket.
That's great. Splitting it up so you don't feel like it's as overwhelming. That's an amazing idea. And I feel like parents have been so resourceful over the past year in finding, different ways for us to entertain our kids, not just screen time. I mean, we had, we started gardening a lot with our kids. We started cooking a lot with our kids. We did like so many different things to entertain them. And at the same time, they were educational. Yuling, I would love to bring you in and have you share what are some of the resources at Remake Learning Days that you guys have for parents to help engage, in their children's education, but that's also engaging for the whole family.
Thank you. So at Remake Learning Days, we think a lot about how to connect families to local community resources. And so we lovingly call Remake Learning Days the world's largest open house of hands-on learning. And it's a festival that happens in 17 regions between April 22nd and May 23rd. And during the festival time, parents and kids can find events at libraries and museums and tech centers, play spaces, and it's easy to explore events. You just click there and there will be 600 events that you can pick from. And as you can see on the left side, there are different themes. So you can pick arts, maker, outdoor learning, science, technology, or youth voice. You can also look to see what kind of event you would like to attend, whether it's virtual or in person. And also on our website, you can search by age group. And the idea behind this is for you to try something new and to learn about a new community resource and hopefully deepen that bond with that community resource and continue the learning after that. So I picked 3 fun events that I thought might be of interest to everyone tonight. So the first event happens to be in Eastern Kentucky, and it's called Let's Tattoo a Banana. It's art, it's science mixed together using a banana, something we most likely have at home, and kids will eventually learn about oxidation. So that's the first event. The next one is from San Diego, and it's called Paper Circuits. I did this with my child, and her eyes lit up when she realized she can make a light bulb come on. And it's something that you can do with a few simple tools at home, and they will walk you through this webinar. And then the last one I picked is from Shell Games. And Shell Games is a tech center here in Pittsburgh. And they make virtual reality games as well as they work for different theme parks such as Disney World. And pre-COVID, they would host an event where mostly teens would come and learn about all the different types of jobs that it takes to make a game or an attraction work. This year, because of COVID, they are doing a virtual open house. So anyone in the world can join in. And it's a great event for career readiness for those older kids.
I love that these are not just in person, but you're also, you know, accessing parents who can't go to the actual event, and they're virtual events. That's an amazing events and resources for parents to get some new ideas on things that they can do with their kids. Megan, passing to you, there is an incredible resource that you guys have at Ed Navigator that I want you to share with everyone.
Yeah, so we really love the idea of choice. So Remake Learning Days across America just gets me so excited. And last spring, we very quickly realized that our families were not going to have their normal summer choices. They were not going to have their in-person camps to rely on. And so we wanted to provide a resource for any family across the country to access for free. So we created a project called Camp Kinda. It is designed for kids in K through 8, and there are tons of activities designed around weekly themes, and kids get a chance to learn, move, create, play, and hopefully, you know, engage with new content and get interested in different ideas. And at this point, we have a huge library of learning adventures, so kids can pick and choose what they want to spend time on. And we found that this was extremely popular and just helpful as another resource for families across the country. We were so proud to have over 40,000 users last summer. So you'll see some of the stats on this slide. And we're really excited to continue Camp Kinda into summer 2021, hopefully also bringing some more content for our younger learners. The way we've kind of kept this going is through another project that we started in the school year called the Kinda Guide. I've already referenced it with the screen time post from our Boston Navigator, Jess. This is also a free resource, and it's designed for families, parents, and caregivers. You are our audience. We aim to provide practical, useful tips in Navigator hacks. We want to offer solutions to real challenges that our families are asking us about in our Ask a Navigator section. And we have some other really popular elements like daily dinner time questions, just to take one more thing off of your busy plate. And so families can register for free at thekindaguide.org, and that can then allow them access to Camp Kinda.
And can I just say I am such a huge fan of the Kinda Guide. It feels like you're getting like an email from like one of your parent friends into your inbox every week. It has the greatest resources and the greatest messages, just kind of like affirmations of that, you know, you're doing a good job along the way, and it gives you the best tips. So definitely sign up for that. That's such an amazing resource. Another incredible resource from Wide Open Schools. Rocio, you guys have some great activities to do with kids. Tell us about that.
Yes, absolutely. So the Wide Open School is a free site. It was born out of, a partnership with many other educational technology companies, including Learning Heroes. And what we aimed to do is also create a site where parents can go and find quality, high quality educational content for children in various topics and for children K through 12, pre-K to 12, excuse me. So if you scroll down on wideopenschool.org, you can actually also select the language. So we know that, a lot of parents, might be first generation or immigrants. So we have from 150 different languages if you want to see the page in that way, including Spanish. And then what you can do is check out the different topics that we have. So for example, let's say that you're thinking, you know what, my child is struggling a little bit with math and they're not really connecting to their, online classroom and math. What are some other things that I can do with them that's going to have that's going to nurture a love for math? So you click on math and right now we're on grades 3 to 5. So perfect. You can click on other grade levels. But if we scroll down, you can see that we have different activities, including videos, worksheets, articles, activities. And let's say you want to break it down by format. So let's say we just want to look at a video that will inspire us to do math. So we click on video. And one of my favorite ones is actually right here at the bottom. It's called Playing Card Math Games. So that's just an example of one activity, one piece of content that you can click on, where now you get to play a card game with your child, or just, have them watch the video, give them a deck of cards, and they can apply what they're learning. And without them even knowing, they're going to be practicing math by simply playing a game. So thousands of pieces of content like that is what we have to offer at Wide Open School. And I just also wanted to point, if you scroll back up to the top on Wide Open School, we also have Recursos en Español, a hub in Spanish for our Spanish-speaking parents. And we also have a family and teacher center. So if you feel like you need a little bit more connection with, how to keep in touch with your teachers, with your schools, or also resources for educators on how to use this type of content to connect with their families, we have that type of stuff as well.
That's amazing. There's so many different ideas and so many different things that you can do there. And honestly, I feel like all these resources, all the resources that you guys have been talking about is kind of what's helped us parents establish a routine throughout this past year. It's given us ideas of things that we can do. We've implemented it as part of our, day-to-day activities. And, throughout the year, I feel like there's obviously been shifts. Some cities have had to go back into lockdown, or maybe your child's school had to close down again. There's been a lot of times that we've had to kind of shift, and definitely upcoming now, a huge shift that's going to happen for a lot of us is going to be summer. We've already established a routine throughout the school year, and now with summer approaching, a lot of parents are left wondering, like, what do we do? A lot of experts are saying that this is a good time to catch up maybe on some unfinished learning. Parents are pushing back and saying, we need a break from all of this. Yuling, I would love for you to jump in and kind of give us parents some guidance on how we should approach this upcoming summer.
So yes, it's definitely been a hard year for everyone. And summer is an important time to think about learning, but it should be joyful learning. It should be learning that your kids are excited about. And so, we just heard about all these great resources. I've used Wide Open School. My kids would be all over that history camp by Kinda Guide. So it should be something that they are passionate about, something that they want to learn more about. And by default, they will be learning, they will be reading, they will be doing math in some way. And so what we tell families is take a moment, breathe, just enjoy having fun together and doing something that you will enjoy.
Yeah, definitely. Taking a moment to take a step back and have some fun, right? And I feel like a lot of us have been implementing a lot of fun ways to make education fun for our kids. Like we've been mentioning all these different activities that we can implement throughout the day to make learning joyful, right? Megan, I would love for you to tell us what you think is a way that parents can kind of have a new perspective going into summer.
Yeah, one of the really important parts of my work as a navigator is helping my family stay informed and helping them understand how their students are doing holistically, but of course, academically. And so first, I do think that parents should try to understand how their student is ending the year academically. With less student achievement data, with less consistency in teaching and learning, getting that clarity is likely going to be far more difficult this year than it has been in the past. So there is one tool that I suggest parents check out. It's called the Academic Snapshot, and it's available on our Ed Navigator website. Parents can give this to their teachers and ask them to fill it out. So it can provide some valuable information that goes beyond just the grade in the class. So there's some questions about effort, how your child interacts with peers. And so while parents can get that piece of paper back and maybe make some more decisions about how to spend the summer, it could also start a conversation between parents and teachers. I also wholeheartedly agree with you, Ling, that summer is a chance for kids to explore passions, explore their interests, try out new things. At Ed Navigator, we know there's not one size fit all. There are so many different needs and concerns and constraints. And so another tool that we really like to share with our families is the Summer Learning Template. And this is a one-page document that's super easy to use. And it's intended to help families and students set summer learning goals, whether academic or not, determine action steps, and then track progress. So you could print it out, it's colorful, it's pretty attractive, and you could stick it on the fridge or put it in your kid's room, and everybody can literally be on the same page about what summer learning is going to look like in your house.
That's great. And it's true. I think it gives parents peace of mind to kind of know where their child is academically going into summer. Something that helped me last year when my son, he couldn't finish preschool and he was about to start kindergarten, and it was, scary as a mom of a child who was just starting off his education. A tool that I used and that I am a huge fan of is Learning Heroes has a resource called the Readiness Check. It's almost like a game. You choose your child's grade level, which at that point my son was in kindergarten, so I just went to the kindergarten section. I believe it was 3 questions pop up, and it almost looks like a game. And then he just answered the questions as if we were playing a game. And then when he's done, it gives the parent a score. And depending on where he scored, it provides you resources for how they can continue their learning, essentially. So it gives parents peace of mind, but it also helps you, come up with fun activities that you can implement in your day-to-day routine to help your kid get to the level he needs to be at, or even, learn in a more fun and dynamic way. So I definitely think that these tools and these resources are incredible for parents to go into summer, with peace of mind, and also some extra resources to get them ready for the next school year. So we've been having this conversation, but I want to make sure that in our chat box, everyone participating is also having a conversation. So we want to pose this question for you guys to answer in the chat box. Now that I'm sorry, what is one of your favorite hacks that has helped your family balance work school life this past school year? We've been sharing a lot of them throughout this webinar, but we would love for you guys to jump into the chat and let us know. So continuing on, obviously this year has been hard for kids, particularly, especially because some of them haven't even stepped into school yet. They haven't even been able to see their friends without a mask. And obviously that can have an effect on them, especially if they haven't seen, especially their family, and they're seeing their friends behind a screen. Yuling, I would love for you to talk about how kids who are continuing, virtual learning, and we still have a few months left of this school year, how they can how they can become more motivated. How can parents help them become more motivated if they're kind of getting tired of distance learning?
And it's hard because I think we're all a little tired of screen time and distance learning, but it's important to realize that there are other ways for kids to connect, right? And so what we hear about from parents is try book club. Have them meet with their friends and pick out a few books, and they each take turns and they read it, and then they get together and they talk about it. Or find collaborative games like Minecraft. Another one that we hear about is creating something together where a set of kids might have part A and somebody else might have part B, and then you put it together, whether it's stop motion animation or you're actually editing a film. But the most important thing that we say at Remake Learning Days is it's really important for the parents to learn alongside their kids. The Global Family Research Project did a survey analysis of youth attendees that came to Remake Learning Days. And we learned that kids who went to events with their parents or caregivers wanted more learning and enjoyed it so much more than kids who just went by themselves or with another adult. And so this is really important for parents. I know a lot of times I get nervous, like, I don't know anything about science. I don't know how to teach that math problem. It doesn't matter. What actually matters is that you're sitting next to your kid and just learning alongside them and enjoying those moments together. And that will hopefully spark that creativity and passion.
I think that is so valid and that is so true. And I said in the beginning of the webinar that I think by sitting with my son, all this extra time that we had together, it helped him in his education. It helped him read before starting kindergarten. So definitely, I think just sitting next to your child and having, that connection helps, both of you. It helps the parent be involved in their education, and it helps the child feel, like their parent is supporting them in their learning journey. Megan, I've talked a lot about my son. He's 5 years old. Obviously, this is I feel for the little kids that are going through this pandemic, that they haven't even experienced kindergarten or what school is like. But this is also affecting teenagers. Talk to us about what parents can do to motivate kids who are in high school during this really, really important time in their social life.
Yeah, I have the privilege of working with families across all age bands, but I was formerly a high school teacher. So I've been thinking a lot about our high schoolers throughout the pandemic. Generally, they have been more isolated from their school communities and their peers. They have been more likely to be in remote or at best hybrid learning situations. They are acutely aware of the negative impacts of COVID-19, and that can be extra stressful. And we know that high schoolers tend to take on more responsibilities at home, like caring for a younger sibling, or maybe even getting a part-time job. So all of this combined can take a toll on older students' motivation in school. But there are some things that families can do. I think the first thing is to try to check in with your teenager as much as you can. I know firsthand that teenagers are not always the easiest people to get information out of, but knowing that you're there and knowing that you care does matter. Second, I think it's important to remember that even older students, even college age students, sometimes need help connecting the dots between what they want to accomplish and how they can get there. So if they can have a conversation with an adult that they trust about their dreams, about their hopes, whether they're short-term goals, long-term goals, then that can start a conversation about the strengths that they can leverage. It can start conversations about the obstacles that might stand in their way, and they can help plan out the process of being resilient and pushing through to accomplish the goals that they want to accomplish, whether big or small. And then I think the last thing that I've learned in this pandemic, or just been really reminded of, is that families who have kids transitioning into a new school have a really big challenge. So if you're the parent of a 9th grader who's about to start a new high school, or maybe you have a student transferring to a new school, or a first-year college student, it's really difficult to get to know your school community in a remote setting. And that might be what happens this fall. So I think as a parent, you can encourage your student to get creative about how to make connections with their new school community, how to learn, like what questions should you ask about your new high school? Are there teacher office hours that you can attend? Can you go to a virtual fair? Just really kind of nudging them consistently over time can make a big difference. It's not going to be overnight, but those kind of consistent nudges with older students towards a goal that they care about can make a difference and increase motivation.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think definitely creating that dialogue is so important, especially for, for teenagers, just to check how, how they're doing, how they're processing all this themselves. Rocio, obviously, we can create a dialogue with our kids, but sometimes we have to remember about ourselves too. Parents have been through a lot this past year. As many victories as we've had, and as positive as we've made this experience, we also have to check in with ourselves and look inward, right? What do you think is a way that parents can kind of shift that perspective if they're feeling a little bit overwhelmed with everything?
Absolutely. And you just said it, Lorena, is self-care. And you mentioned joy. And Megan mentioned, creativity and like setting goals. And that's definitely so important, even for us as adults, to remember, as much as we care so much about our kids learning and their experience, remembering that we're going to be the best for them if we're making sure that we're also taking care of ourselves and our needs. And one of those ways is, even by attending webinars such as this one, and attending and listening to tips, listening to some hacks, and also connecting with other parents and seeing what are other parents doing. And so I definitely recommend, for all parents, to make sure that you have other parents, whether it be neighbors or cousins or grandparents, to check in with each other, other parents of children at school, for example, and make sure that you have a tribe of support that even for you to just talk to and for you to troubleshoot or for you to share, we're going through that at home as well. And sometimes when you realize that you're not the only one going through those things, it almost becomes funny, right? Because you're able to just laugh about it and be like, okay, I'm not the only one other parents are going through this as well, and we can be there to support each other and to understand each other. One thing for sure right now, and in common sense, we've been telling parents this all year long: parents, throw away the guilt, throw away the shame or the judgment. There's no space for that in our household right now. Especially we often do it to ourselves, right? Throw that away. You're doing an amazing job considering everything that we have been having to deal with this year. I did want to invite parents to join a community that we've started via text. Now you can receive the Common Sense Media tips and information and resources directly to the palm of your hand by just sending the word kids to the number 21555. Or if you're looking at the screen right now, you can also point your camera to this QR code, and it's going to open a link with the text kids to the number 21555. And I don't know if you could see because I have a virtual background, but I wanted to show you an example of the colorful infographics that we're sending via text weekly, and this is absolutely free. Of course, we have to say, check your plan, text and data and message rates may apply from your mobile carrier, so make sure that you have a plan that includes text messages. But if you do, then you're good to go. And we're just really intentional about sending out weekly content that is not only practical, informational, resourceful, but that it's also bite-sized. We know that parents are very limited with time, and we also want to make sure that it's uplifting, that in that moment when you get a message from us and you feel part of that community, you feel uplifted and encouraged and not judged or guilty or anything like that. That stuff we're going to throw away.
I love that. And I just signed up. I can't wait to see, you know, the tips and the resources that you guys send through that. So thank you for sharing that. You know, I just wanted to quickly say, you used a word that I think was so important. You said something about having your tribe. You know, I think we're used to hearing it takes a village. But lately, and I feel like for the past year, having your tribe, having, you know, your friends kind of rally around you and like-minded people come together and just share ideas and just be there for one another. Just super quick, one of the things that we implemented at work when we had to go back to work, obviously I work in news, so it's sometimes very stressful, and especially as a parent, with everything happening, we decided that every single day at 1 p.m. we were going to go to a room and we were going to meditate. So every single day at 1 p.m. we just take the time, we use an app, we sit there for 15 minutes, we meditate, and it's honestly, you come out with like such a new perspective. So there's these tiny little moments and these tiny things that parents can do every single day to just feel good about themselves, so that when they get home to their kids or when they're with their kids and helping them on this journey, they also feel, you know, good as well. So thank you everyone for sharing all of those amazing tips. We are implementing them, and I hope that all the parents listening are also going to be implementing them as well. Before we finish, just because we started off on such a positive note, we want to also end this on a positive note. We would love for each of you to share, what do you think is one of the things that parents are going to take with them out of this pandemic? Like, what lessons learned or routines implemented are they going to take with them beyond the pandemic? Yuling, I would love to start with you. You're on mute. You're on mute.
I'm so sorry about that. I thought for sure I wasn't going to be that person. So two things that I think about is, one is to slow down that pace. I think the pandemic has really forced us to relook at time and how we use our time. And I know before the pandemic, in my tribe, we were always feeling rushed to do something, rushed to get dinner on the table, rushed to go to an activity, rushed to meet someone. And the pandemic has really had us slow down and enjoy family time together. So that's one thing that I think about personally, holding on to post-pandemic. The other thing that I think is important to think about is the unique lens that you've had into your child's learning. This isn't something that you can normally see. So you've been able to see how your child learn, how they interact with the teacher, how you can interact with the teacher, and how you can continue that learning. And we've learned that learning can happen everywhere. It does not just have to happen in a school building. It happens outside of school. And so how does that then create more opportunities for you and your family moving forward?
That's great. It's so true. It's so true. Megan, I would love to get your thoughts on what's something that parents are gonna take with them beyond the pandemic.
Yeah, so I also think about two things. One, I think, like Yuling said, parents have this new insight into how kids learn, but I think they also have a new insight into how schools and teachers operate. Also, like they became teachers, so they had to probably learn a lot of different teacher tricks along the way. To be honest, families that I work with have had moments of frustration, confusion, and disappointment, but they have also witnessed amazing things that schools and teachers are capable of. And I think there are so many examples where schools have built community in a new way, where teachers have gone above and beyond, or parents as teachers have gone above and beyond, and where we've seen like increased communication between schools and families. And so I hope that families can look back at this year and amidst all of the craziness, still find some bright spots and still have gratitude for themselves, for all of the people that have been supporting their kids at schools. And I really hope that communication stays strong. It is something that, I work with families a lot on throughout every school year. And I just really hope that the community that schools and families have kind of reformed in this pandemic can continue into the future.
Definitely. I completely agree. Rocio.
It's such a good thing to reflect on the things that we're taking away and the things that we want to continue, and the things that we can, again, pat ourselves on the back for. One thing that I've noticed in families is just how amazing their resilience has been throughout this past year. And that's one thing that we forget, how children are so resilient. I feel like in the future, kids are going to look back and this is going to be a memory for them. But the way that parents have faced the challenges and kept going and done their best, like those are the types of things that their children are going to remember. Like, wow, like my parents, they made it work, in spite of craziness, not being able to see loved ones, or experiencing layoffs, or working overtime, or working remotely, overseeing my education. We can trust that our children, they've been watching, and we've been modeling those beautiful family values with our children. And those are the things that they're then going to practice when they become adults, when faced with challenging situations. Hopefully this is the only pandemic that we experience in our lifetime, but there are some people saying that there might be others. And so as families, we know we could do this. We went through this really difficult year. We did it together, and we're going to keep going. And so I just want to commend all the parents for just practicing that resilience and not giving up.
Rocio, that was amazing. That touched my heart, because as a parent, again, and all the parents that are listening, I'm sure that they agree with me. It's so true. It's been such a tough year, but like you all said, we're all excited for life after the pandemic. But I feel like throughout the past year, we've learned so much, and we've become so much stronger. We've become better parents. We've had to create a whole different routine for our family. Like, we're rock stars, we're like superheroes. We've done a great job. So we have to see the silver lining of the pandemic, and definitely one of mine that I really hope that a lot of parents take on past the pandemic is their creativity. I mean, I've done things that I did, like an outdoor scavenger hunt for my son, and like we've done like amazing things because I've seen them online, and I was like, I want to do that with my son. And I know a lot of parents have become super creative in all the activities that they do with their kids. They're not just helping their minds thrive, but it's creating a bond that you're never going to forget about, that they're going to remember this forever. So I definitely think that there's a lot of things that we have all learned over the last year that we can take with us to the future. And I just hope that we put that into perspective, and that we remember this time as a learning experience that we can carry on into the future. I have had so much fun talking with you ladies. You are all amazing. You have provided amazing resources, but I want to give anyone in the chat the opportunity to ask any questions for the three of you. So I am going to pass it on to Howard, who has been looking at the chat box to see if there's any questions.
Thank you, Lorena. So we do have three questions so far. The first question is actually going to be geared towards Yuling, and it is, can I attend the Remake Learning festivals even if there isn't one in my community?
Absolutely, yes. So that is something that we learned through the pandemic, and we've now made events virtual. And they're virtual during a certain time, they're also virtual on demand. And it's something that we'll probably keep moving into the future because we realize flexibility is so important for families. So I would say out of the 600 events that we have, more than 70% are virtual.
Awesome, that's amazing. And you could you share what that site is again that people can go to get information about Remake Learning?
Yeah, so it's remakelearningdays.org, O-R-G. And when you go there, you just click find events and just fill out what you need to fill out in the filters, and it'll find the right event for your family.
Awesome, thank you, thank you. And Megan, this is a question for you. How can I sign up for Camp Kinda for my child and the Kinda Guide for me?
Yeah, so you can, your first stop would be kindaguide.org. That will allow you to sign up for free as a parent. And once you're all set up, you'll start getting emails with content that can be found all over the Kinda Guide website. You can also just go to some of the articles without signing in, and you can poke around at past articles, past hacks, past recipes. So all of the content is there permanently. That's also then where you can access Camp Kinda. Now, if you're like me and you just like remember a few words from a webinar and like Camp Kinda is the thing you walk away with this webinar thinking about, you can also go to campkinda.org and you'll be directed to the Kinda Guide website. So we'll get you there one way or the other. And just a reminder, it's all free. You may see that there's like a donation option for the Kinda Guide. It's totally not mandatory, but it does help us just expand access to more families across the country.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that resource, Megan. And Rocio, we did not forget about you. A question for you is, does Wide Open Schools have offline activities as well?
Yes, absolutely. So at Wide Open School, infused into all those content boxes with the different descriptions, there's actually also some boxes that have offline activities and ideas for parents to just practice these things. And I'll give you an example of 3 of these offline activities because these are my favorite. One is make a community gift box. Just cardboard box or one of those plastic bins, put it out somewhere visible. This is a great activity for the summer, and encourage kids, okay, this is going to be our community gift box. Just put all your toys that we can donate, that we can, take to a donation center, just like start putting them on here, and then, set a deadline. In 2 weeks time, we're going to take them together to donate them. Another activity is a gratitude jar that you can just, place a jar on a kitchen table or on a counter, and encourage kids to write a gratitude note or a picture if they're not writing yet, a picture or a note, and just stick them in. And at the end of the week, you read them together as a family, all the little gratitude notes. And then the other, one of the other that are my favorites is pen pal. Good old pen pal and snail mail is parents, find somebody that your child can write letters to or pictures if they're not writing yet. And, encourage them to, write them, put them in the envelope, go to the mailbox, put the stamp, don't forget the stamp, and encourage the children to write back and forth to each other. Also a really great offline activity for the summertime. You can find more on wideopenschool.org.
No, I absolutely love that. I think that all of the resources that you guys have provided today are just so helpful for parents, especially during this difficult time, that we're going through. And I want to thank every single one of you for participating in our webinar today. And Lorena, thank you so much for moderating this amazing presentation. And be sure to join us for the rest of our parent and educator webinar series in April and May. Our next parent webinar is going to take place on May 13th, and it's Make Summer Count: how to keep your child learning while having fun offline and online. Keep your eyes open for blog and recording of this webinar that you can share within your networks. And this was such an inspiring conversation on helping parents find balance. Now we want to hear from you. What's one idea, strategy, or aha moment that you're going to be taking away from today's session? Thanks again, and everyone have a great night.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.